The quaintness of Dublin knows no limits. Sweeney's was a little pharmacy in central Dublin, opened around 1847. It was a place frequented by James Joyce, who immortalized it in his Ulysses. Since 2009, it has become a bookstore and a conference and reading center of James Joyce major works. So, my dear friends, Italian and Irish friends, today we have a special meeting with the title, The Importance of Being James Joyce. And for that reason, we have an exceptional trio of guests, which I will introduce any minute. Let's say that Dublin is a very quaint place. I've been living here more than 50 years, and I always found it quite quaint, with quaint corners, quaint places. And of course, the importance of a literary giant like James Joyce, which I actually compare with Dante. In other words, what Dante is to Italy, Ulysses or James Joyce is to Ireland. But we can discuss this and you can elaborate on this. However, there is a little pharmacy, or there was a little pharmacy in central Dublin, Sweeney, which was established in around 1847. But it operated as such, as a pharmacy, until, I think, yes, and from then on, it became slowly a bookshop, which sells a lot of second-hand books, including works by James Joyce. And practically a Joycean center, because it's a place where so many lectures, so many readings are held. So for this purpose now we have three special guests. We start with PJ Murphy.
Hello.
Who is the managing director of the Sweeney, and who will tell about the history very briefly about this place. We have also an actor, and welcome on board, Jack, an actor of theater, cinematography, and also an impersonator on occasions, especially on Bloomsday, of the major character of Ulysses. And we have also Massimiliano, last but not least, Massimiliano Bianchi, who is now at home with our meetings, and who, in fact, apart from being a professor or joint professor in Trinity College in psychology, he actually founded, just not to get away from the subject of Ulysses, the Ulysses Neuroscience Limited. And also is a co-director of the Sweeney as it is now, holding lectures and meetings all the time. So welcome on board. And we start with PJ, who will give us a little bit of insight into this very laudable project, which is called Sweeney Pharmacy.
Good morning, good afternoon. You're all very welcome. I would like to talk about Sweeney's, and Sweeney's is a special chemist. It's early Victorian, started in opened in 1847 by a guy called Mark Sweeney, who was a doctor. He had a son who was a chemist, and it was handed on to him in 1853, and it ran as a functioning chemist until 2009. When it closed. It stayed closed then until October of the same year. So this year, we're here 11 years. And of course, 11 years ago, I came in there and I decided that because of the link with James Joyce, and of course, the wonderful connection in chapter 5 when Leopold Bloom comes into Sweeney's to buy a face cream for his lovely wife, Molly, and then, of course, sees the lemon soap and buys the lemon soap for himself. So when we started, we had no connection with anyone. We had no money, no funding. So we had to find ways of making the chemist pay the rent, because we still had a rent to pay. We still had a landlord. So we managed to sell antiques. We sold books. We sold lemon soap, which is very important. And it's taken us right up to this period. But the most important thing for us is volunteers. We've had many volunteers from all over the world, many from Italy. And these are people who have time to give to us, and they bring special gifts with them. And each one has brought a special gift. in his own way. And we've been very, very happy to have them like that. And hopefully will continue to be like that. And of course, one of our main attractions at the moment is we do readings 7 days a week, and of course in 5 languages, apart from
As
English.
as an Irishman, you must be very proud of being part of this on a shall we say, managing role of this place.
Well, for someone who isn't paid, it's been a huge pleasure. And one of the main attractions is we get all the Joyces, all the family, because Joyce was one of 10. And we get so many of them who come to the chemist, and they have stories to tell us about, the intimate part of Joyce, which you don't read about, which is absolutely wonderful.
Very good. Now, Massimiliano, you lecture a lot. You do readings a lot in this place, yes. And when did you and what pleasure do you draw from this?
Well, first of all, a little, we'll tell you the story on how I got to meet PJ and enter Sweeney the first time. This was almost 5 years ago now. I mean, it's 6 years that I'm in Ireland, Dublin, and times fly. So 5 years ago, my mother was visiting here from Verona, and Sweeney is very close to Trinity, but I never paid attention to it before. And I was having a walk with my mom, and my mom is a wonderful young lady of 88 years old. At that time, she was 83. And we were walking, and she saw the outside of Sweeney. We were just in front of the shop. And she said, well, I think we need to go in. And I was like, why? I mean, when you look at Sweeney from outside, I don't know. I was like, no, mom, and then, I'm not the kind of a social animal as well. So I'm a little bit, oh, no, let's go in, and we opened the door, and I will always remember this, and PJ was standing there, just in front of us, and he looked at us, and with his, where are you from? And I said, Italy. And PJ started to talk in Italian, like, benvenuti. And my mom was like, wow. And then he said, who is the guy close to you, dear lady? And she said, well, it's my son, mio figlio. And PJ was, suo figlio è bellissimo. And from that, I was kind of starting. And I started, volunteering and going to the readings. At that time, we had, offline readings of Italian every Sunday. So I started to go there. And then the other important thing is that, at a certain point, myself and PJ, we become really good friends, and PJ has been very important for me, even in very difficult times. But at a certain point during the readings, one thing that PJ does is to push people to express themselves. And so I still don't know for what reason, but he looked at me and said, do you actually write poetry? And I was like, how does he know that? I was like, yeah, I do write poetry from time to time. It's like, well, you have to read a few things, I started reading my poetry both in Italian and in English in Sweden. And then PJ started to call me poet and scientist. Well, you are a scientist and a poet. And I started to believe this. It was really like, because of PJ, I really started to believe this. And then I had a first book published, and I started performing around my poetry and everything. So this is just to say that there is a magic in Sweeney, that it's pushing people to express themselves, pushing to creativity, and also the great international atmosphere and the sense of brotherhood that you live in that little place. It's fantastic, and it's absolutely in line with the message of Joyce. And also PJ has said that we are all volunteers in there. No one is taking a single penny. I can assure you that the amount of work that goes in there, it's really a lot. And we do it with a lot of passion and a lot of love, which is the opposite of hatred, as Bloom said.
Now, last but not least, now Jack, as an actor, cinema is now having a role in the Vikings film, I believe, yes.
Well, a film called, The Northman, which is, it's by an American director called Robert Eggers. It's filming up in the north of Ireland at the moment. And it's a Viking revenge tale, which is why I look like this. And I have
Well,
played
long
Leopold
beard,
Bloom, but I
yes.
didn't look like that then. Anyway, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, how much is JOYCE important for you, for your career as an actor, etc.? You have impersonated Leopold Bloom a few times, actually, occasionally, actually, very frequently, I suppose,
Yeah.
for many years.
Well, the thing was, I came into contact with Sweeney's because of being asked to play Leopold Bloom on an outdoor performance on Bloomsday, which was edited and directed by our company secretary, Nastasia Leddy, in Dublin. And at the time, I hadn't fully read Ulysses. And when it's edited down to an hour and a half, you really need to know what the hell you're doing. So I thought, okay, I'd better read it, but also I need to be in that world. And serendipity brought me outside Sweeney's for some reason, and I went in, and I actually went to a reading first on the Saturday, which is a reading that PJ wasn't involved in, but they told me that was early in the morning, and they told me there's another one in the evening, which suits me better. I'm more a nighttime person. On Thursdays. So I went, met PJ, met all the gang, and they all went over to the pub afterwards. And I thought, yeah, this is great. And I think the second time I met PJ, he said, "Oh, you speak French," because I lived in Paris for 5 years before. You should go to my house in France. And I said, "I've just met you." But that's the way he is. He's very generous. So I ended up doing that. But anyway, once you go in the door of Sweeney's, it's sort of like you're a fly getting caught in a spider's web. That's sort of it. You're there for life, however short or long that life is going to be. And so you become you're part of the readings first, then you're part of the pub thing, then you become a volunteer. And if you're really bad, you get to be a board member like we are. So it's part of not just me as an actor, part of my soul, my spirit. So it helps me as an actor in the sense of I love doing this. Sometimes you're asked to do things as an actor because you have skill, and so you can do it. But maybe you don't think the script is particularly good or whatever, or you do it for the money or whatever. But with everything I do with Sweeney's, I don't do it for money. I do it because I love it, like PJ does, like Max does. So I would say it's very important, very fundamental.
One thing which I'd like to ask you, to ask three of you actually, is to do with the love-hate that JOYCE had for Ireland in a way. Is it right in saying that? Because he escaped the provincialism of this city and Ireland at the time. That's what we know, what we read in critics, But yet, the most extraordinary was in his heart. In fact, he wrote Dubliners, which, according to some critics, and you agree with me, they say that if he had written only that and not Ulysses, he would have been equally famous. Do you agree with?
Yes, I agree.
Because
I think he would have been famous, but like everything he did, he advanced even more. So, like Ulysses is such an amazing work. I mean, for a start, it's the link with Sweeney's, which is amazing. I think he would have been most famous for Dubliners for The Dead, which has such a possibly the best short story ending in the English language, as they say. But I mean, Ulysses, some people don't like it because you have to really get into it. You have to dive into it like a swimmer.
well, and
And
in
there are
fact,
human.
when you're hinting on the difficulty, on the complexity of this work of art, which is Ulysses, in fact, the other question I would like to pose to you is that would you agree that just like Dante, which I mentioned earlier, and the parallel with James Joyce, these geniuses, I think, are aware of what they are writing or what they are creating, because at the back of their mind there is the thought that generations after will will sweat on these works, trying to read it and understanding and read. Do you agree that there is this awareness? Because definitely Dante had this awareness when he wrote the mammoth work called the Divine Comedy. And James Joyce, likewise, might have thought, now I'm writing something which will be keeping generations very busy.
Yeah, if I can
How about
comment,
that?
yeah, Concetto, I think you're right. And Joyce had the ambition of writing something that would have made him immortal, and this was his objective. He was very scared and afraid of death, and it's the word metempsychosis comes many times in the Ulysses, which means essentially reincarnation. I don't think Joyce really believed in reincarnation, but for him, reincarnation was like something that would have been always remembered. And one of his comments was essentially that they put so many things to understand and tricks into Ulysses that would have taken centuries to people and scholars to understand it. And this is what he did. Concerning Dante, I think the parallelism that you do is absolutely correct. They brought something with the intention of made it immortal and made it a classic. A classic. What makes a classic, a book, it means that it's you study it forever. We still study the Odyssey. We still have things to understand in the Odyssey that was written 2,000 years ago. And it's also the parallels with Dante is on the fact that in Ulysses you have real characters that were in Dublin. And if you read one chapter, which is 8 of Ulysses, you clearly understand that what Dublin is in reality in Ulysses is the other world upside down. You see? So Dublin in Ulysses is the hell in reality, upside down and brought into real life. And this is where
Parallels are there, yes. The
inspiration from
parallels are there.
is coming in.
Dulcis in Fundo now, PJ has a bit of a guitar piece to play.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, because in the last story in The Dead, there's a lovely song which is 1760. It's a Scottish song called "The Lass of Aughrim," and of course, one of the characters, her boyfriend, used to play this song or sing this song to her when they were very young, when they were courting, and sadly he died. And so the song is quite nice because it only lasts a minute, and it's.
Nice
This
to
is
end
called The
with a
Last
bit
of
of
Aughrim.
music. All right.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
If you be the lass of Aughrim, as you're telling me you be, tell me the first token that passed between you and me. Oh, do you remember that night on Yodlin Hill, when we first met together? I'm sorry now to tell. Oh, the rain, it falls on my heavy locks, and the dew, it wets my skin. My babe lies cold within my arms. Lord Gregory, let me in. My babe lies cold within my arms. Lord Gregory, let me in. There you go.
Very good. Very good.
The Last of Aughrim.
Thank you. Well, we are approaching the end of our program, so I will thank you very much for participating today, and I hope to visit Sweeney soon when on the occasion of some do of a literary do.
Concetto.
Yes.
Concetto. That PJ's song there, "The Lass of Aughrim," comes from the beautiful short story "The Dead," Would you like me to read the last few lines of it?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Okay,
Yes.
let's do that. Because PJ, you can explain how it links into the story if you like. PJ, can you hear me?
Well, of course I can hear you. I know. I'm just saying that the story is about a couple, and everyone has a past, and people tend not to talk about their past. And of course, during this dinner, this guy is singing this song called "The Lass of Okram" upstairs. The dinner has finished, everyone's leaving, and then her husband Gabriel sees Greta with a look on her face he's never seen before. So, and he hears this song and he says, well, what's this song about? And she says, oh, it's a song a young boy used to sing to me. We were walking out together. Walking out is an Irish expression, which means that we were dating. And then she said, but I can't remember its name. And of course, the guy singing the song was Bartel Darcy. And when he stops and comes downstairs, she asks him for the name and he tells her. So anyway, you take it from there.
A few light taps upon the pane made him turn to the window. It had begun to snow again. He watched sleepily the flakes, silver and dark, falling obliquely against the lamplight. The time had come for him to set out on his journey westward. Yes, the newspapers were right. Snow is general all over Ireland. It was falling on every part of the dark central plain, on the treeless hills, falling softly upon the bog of Allen and farther westward, softly falling into the dark, mutinous Shannon waves. It was falling too upon every part of the lonely churchyard on the hill where Michael Fury lay buried. It lay thickly drifted on the crooked crosses and headstones, on the spears of the little gate, on the barren thorns. His soul swooned slowly as he heard the snow falling faintly through the universe, and faintly falling, like the descent of their last end, upon all the living and the dead.
Very appropriate ending with a reading and a bit of music. Well, thank you very much indeed.
I just would like to give a reminder to our audience about our online readings, because this is very important to keep Sweeney going, and we're doing this during the pandemic. We started in the lockdown, so it's already a few months, 6 months that you're going ahead with this. So every Tuesday at 7 p.m. is the online reading of Phineas Wake, which is led by our company secretary in Anastasia. Then on Thursday, 7 p.m. again Irish time is Ulysses with Jack. And then on Saturday, we started with Dubliners. We finished. Then we went ahead with the Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man. We finished. And we are now reading Dracula from Bram Stoker every Saturday at 7 p.m. And this is with Jack and myself. And then on Saturday, we are reading Ulysses in Italian. This is with myself and with Fabiana Traini.
That's Sunday.
From the translation of our friend Enrico Terrinoni. And this is every Sunday at 5 p.m. Just to say that, we have a wonderful community of online readers. We love all of them from United States and Italy, in particular from Trieste and from Sicily. And so we wait for you as well on Sunday to read together with us.
We also have Portuguese on Saturday at 3. So.
All right. You're broadcasting this from Sweden. Yes, okay.
All this is online, and then we live stream.
Okay, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again and again for participating today. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. How are you?